this is actually a famous image. Like all the crypto people will recognize this image, and it's supposed to show the path of a crypto after the initial pump, right? You think of this as like an asset price. And so you have this giant parabolic run up that happens in these cryptos. And then it gets, every time it goes up, those are those circles. It like pumps again, it gets sold off, pumps again, each time less and less and less. And so interestingly enough, this is what a lot of altcoin charts look like against Bitcoin. We were just talking about this. Put this over any of the altcoins denominated in BTC and you'll see it. I think the concept of like altcoins and alt season and this stuff got really popular in 2017, because in 2017, it really was this wild thing.
I was buying them in 2017.
Sure, absolutely. And it was like you could have thrown darts at a board and it's up 20x in a week, right? The people that kind of knew what they were doing and they sold at the right time ostensibly did very well. And so then Bitcoin has this 4-year cycle, right? Everyone's, they talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to go up again. It's going to do it again. It's going to do it again. And it has done it. And it's continued to make new all-time highs and it's continued to grow. And so then this kind of assumption that the altcoins are going to keep doing what happened in 2017 every time. That's what most crypto traders believe. And I think what we're starting to see, in the same way that like, if you have this kind of nonsense coin that pumps a ton, once it pumps again, even 25% as much, the bag holders are going to sell it down. And so it never, ever gets as high again. And I think we're seeing something like that with the entire crypto complex, where you're never again going to have the sort of speculative interest that you had in 2017, where literally everyone believed that this was like a real innovation. These were like fundamental business model changes, fundamental technology breakthrough, and it allowed people to just pile money in from a broad new audience. And so what you're seeing with that chart going increasingly lower, it is increasingly a smaller number of people moving the same funds around to market and getting less and less result for it. Where this comes from is a lot of the crypto traders are miserable right now because a lot of these, like, Brady, maybe you could pull up like Fartcoin or A16Z. These are like popular meme coins. And when you see these charts,
I don't even know where to find these.
Yeah, you go to or whatever. Yeah, CoinGecko. And they're devastating. These things are down like 80%. Like Bitcoin has had an 8% or a 10% correction. And these charts are down 80%, 90%. They're completely wiped out. And so everybody is like scratching their head and they're miserable. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is like inches from an all-time high, still very strong, and a million reasons to be very optimistic about it going forward. And so I really do think we're living in the true bifurcation of Bitcoin and the crypto market. So these are massive drops. Like this chart even doesn't make it look as big, but it basically erased everything that it did because it doesn't really have a history before like October. And so just people were buying it above $2 and it's now 40 cents or something like that. Just wiped out, absolutely wiped out.
And the trend is obvious. Yeah. And this is not against Bitcoin. This is against the dollar. The chart would look even more pathetic against Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, that's just USD.
If you asked these people who are in whatever altcoin or meme coin 3 months ago and just said, hey, or however many months ago, before when Bitcoin was like 60s, right? Chopping around the 60, 70K range. And he said, hey, Bitcoin goes to 100K. What do you think your favorite altcoin or meme coin does? Like they would have all given you such super bullish answers. So I think they're dealing with a huge dose of reality right now.
Think about the 2017 class of altcoins, especially. Those shitcoins were, like Steven was saying, promising all this tech. Cardano is a great example. So in 2017, I got in early 2017. Got in because of Bitcoin, Andreas Antonopoulos videos, and all of that, and I was totally bought in. And then I got sucked in to all of the marketing of, okay, Bitcoin is outdated, it's antiquated, we're doing all these cool new things, and here all these promises. And Cardano was a great example because they played all these academic games. Here's all these white papers and all this research and these really smart mathematicians and these equations that you had to try to parse. And here's what this is going to do and that. And they were really good at marketing to people who were looking for some evidence that there's truth behind these claims, right? They were really good at the smoke and mirrors and still are to this day. Cardano's done nothing. There's no utility. And people, they're still good at swindling people out of their money. So those were scams, right? Almost all of those were scams. They were just lying to people. The meme coin thing is interesting because it's just, this is gambling. It's just, they're not promising any utility. They're not saying that it's better than Bitcoin. They're just saying, they're just whatever, which meme is going to go up, which meme is going to go down, or maybe you want to own it for some sentimental reason. I don't know. But at least they're not lying to you. So to me, that's more like gambling than it is scamming. But in any case, I think it's clear at this point to most people, and more people in the mainstream media and just in the mainstream itself, like there's a difference between Bitcoin and crypto. And that's why almost every morning on the Swan account, we tweet Bitcoin, not crypto. There's a difference here between those things. And I think that's pretty clear. Bitcoin's a serious global asset at this point, playing on the global financial stage and has a shot at being sound money for the world, a sound money alternative for the world, an alternative, a real alternative to fiat money. And you can't say that about any of these other coins at all, meme coins or shit coins, or whatever.
I think honestly, the meme coin thing is part of the same exhaustion where you go from this is real promising tech in 2017. And it's just downhill since then until all you're left with is, well, we can create a new way to gamble. We can do meme coins. I think the high point for crypto, like the absolute peak, was the DeFi stuff in 2019. I think that was like the moment that like maybe they were onto something, maybe they made something that'd be useful. It was actually like novel financial infrastructure. And then when that ended up just turning out to be, yeah, but the only thing you can trade on it is tokens, and the tokens only have value because they let you trade tokens. It was game over, and it's just been a kind of a downhill slide. Like they did the NFT thing, those got wiped out. They're doing the meme coin thing, those are getting wiped out even faster than the NFTs did. And meanwhile, Bitcoin's having global institutional sovereign adoption.
Exactly.
Quick point here to stir the pot a little bit. I agree with your guys' position, but I'm going to take the opposite position. All the Ethereum similar, they needed a narrative to sell us some hype because there was really no goods they could deliver on through the whole process. NFTs was the other one, and they'll all have little niches. But then you have people like Larry Fink and others with power and influence now who believe that we're going to tokenize the stock market. Same with Trump's World Liberty Reserve, whatever that scammy looking thing is. But people are trying to bring this back in the equation. So my question is, are we sure we're not in the trough of disillusionment of that kind of stuff and that we were too early and so everything failed, but then we're going to try and rebuild it through like a BlackRock or something like that? So that's my one question. Going back to the previous point, I think AI took a lot of wind out of crypto tech sales. I think the massive dilution in the ability to create new coins took away some energy. The MicroStrategy, LBE, and other tools to gamble, along with meme coins. There's just exhaustion, I think is probably the right word there. But let's go back to the trough of disillusionment. Is Larry Fink going to rebuild the crypto dream?
Yeah. So I think, and then to be totally fair, okay, what worked? Stablecoins worked, right? They did. That is, you can't say that wasn't successful. It is a huge successful idea. And that was part of that press conference that we started talking about is the US is going to do a bunch of stablecoin things. And what are they going to do? They're going to drive down the long end of bond yields with it. And that's something. Okay, you got that. And yeah, maybe if Larry Fink does some sort of like the asset tokenization thing is funny because does it happen? Probably. But are those assets going to trade on like private blockchains? Like also probably. Like I'm not convinced that on an infrastructure level, even what BlackRock wants to do with these things, I don't know how it works. And maybe they end up doing it. So maybe you get some sort of asset tokenization thing out of it. But I don't think that's enough to reignite the sort of crypto speculation that everyone wants to see out of this space. It's because most of the value is going to accrue to the assets that are being put there, the Apple stock, the Google stock, the real estate holdings. And so, yeah, maybe you get some incremental layer one usage out of the chain or whatever. But I think for this stuff to continue, you need some sort of actual thing to happen. I think people have waited almost a decade now for something to come out of this. And I don't know that it has outside of stablecoins.
I agree. The ETH bros think that all the value accrues to them in that scenario, when in fact it does not. And I think Larry Fink's selling it as like financial inclusion. Hey, we can export our capital markets to the globe, and anyone with a smartphone can buy Apple stock or whatever. That's how he's selling it, and I'm sure he takes a spread on that. But the idea that it would be on a public blockchain seems unrealistic.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Good luck, trench warriors. You are going to need it.
We haven't seen an all-time high yet this cycle for Solana and Ethereum, I think, right? Against Bitcoin. Is that true? Or US dollar? Or was it US dollar?
Even maybe Solana, Ethereum is under all-time high, even US dollar.
Correct. Yeah, Ethereum's way
didn't
back.
hit any new all-time high. Maybe just eked it out. You could maybe eke one out with staking. Sol recovered, but also barely eking out an all-time high on a couple wicks.
Yeah, it was like super momentary.
Yeah.
It's been a very different market compared to these previous ones. If you've been in Bitcoin, you're happy. You're feeling good right now. You've done well. And I think the vast majority of people just who are not holding big Bitcoin positions through this, there's just been a lot of losses and a lot of underperformance.
Good call out from Hurley here before we move on to before we move away from crypto and blockchain stuff. But he just pointed out how Larry Fink was like the voice of ESG for multiple years, which he was, and he pivoted away from that. And so just like you see here on the screen, Hurley says he will do the same, pivot away with the whole put everything on a blockchain nonsense. I think that is very possible, Hurley.
You know, I could take the other side of it too, like kind of what Brandon was saying, like making it so anybody can access a share of Apple stock or Google stock with a click of a button is that's good. If you're in a third world country and like, sure, you can buy Bitcoin, I get it, but having more access to global financial markets is a good thing. That is a good thing. The question is like, how do you do that? What does that actually look like? In my opinion, like BlackRock runs a consortium blockchain where they tokenize.
Yeah, it'll be something like Liquid. And
Yeah.
the intention behind Liquid was one of the intentions was to support digital securities, it's like a federation of 15 companies. I think it's 17 actually, companies that verify the blockchain. And so it's not fully decentralized like Bitcoin is, but if there's going to be digital assets like digital equities, that's how it would operate. Something like Liquid.
And that's my guess. I think there will be, and I'll go even a step further and say I think it's a good thing. I think making equities easier to access and trade is just an aggregate good. But I don't think, going back to our previous, I don't think that value accrual is to these layer ones. I don't think these layer ones are who captures that. And that's the rub there.